The dumbbell lateral raise is universally recognized as one of the best exercises for building wide shoulders. But if you've been doing it for a long time and still haven't seen any changes in your shoulders, this video is for you. Watch how I perform the lateral raise here. If you couldn't spot at least 3 mistakes, it probably means you've been doing it wrong all along without even realizing it. Poor form makes a movement ineffective no matter how many times you repeat it. In this video, I'll go through 5 key points of the lateral raise in detail, from how to stand to exactly where your grip on the dumbbell should be. First, let's talk about your stance, because it directly affects how much of the lateral delts you're actually targeting. Try lifting your arm and feeling the real part of your lateral delts. Does it feel a little flat, or even like there's a dip? If so, your stance might be the issue. You're probably only stimulating the front and middle part of the lateral head. Muscles attached to bones either at a single point, like the biceps, or across the surface, like the lateral delts and the pecs. When the attachment is spread across the surface, you need to hit it from different angles to train it fully. That's why chest workouts include incline, flight, and decline presses. The same principle applies to the lateral delts. If you're always working from the same angle and that angle doesn't align with most of the muscle fibers, you won't fully develop the lateral delts. Think of this chopstick as your humerus. When we do lateral raises, the arm usually moves straight up and down. Now imagine those 2 pieces of yarn representing the front and rear fibers of the lateral delts. When the front fibers contract, the chopsticks moves vertically, matching the path of the typical lateral raise. So the front part of the lateral head gets trained. But when the rear fibers contract, the chopstick moves at a backward angle, not straight up and down. That's why the back part of the lateral delt often gets left out. To target that rear portion, you need to bring those fibers more in line with the direction your arm's moving. The way to do that is by leaning your torso slightly forward. This small adjustment shifts the rear fibers forward, so they can engage more effectively during the movement. There's no universal rule for exactly how much to lean forward, because everybody's body structure is different. But I'll show you a simple way to find the right angle for your own body. Raise your arm and place the card flat on the highest point of the shoulder. That's your front to middle lateral delt. Now slide the card about ½ inches backward. This area is your rear portion of the lateral delt, and you will notice the card tilts downward. From there, slowly lean your torso forward until the card becomes level again. That's the ideal forward lean angle for your body. However, leaning forward introduces a new challenge. It puts more pressure on your lower back. So, when you are doing standing lateral raises, it's best to support yourself by bracing your chest lightly against the bench. If there isn't one available, you can stabilize yourself by stepping into a staggered stance, crossing one foot behind the other for balance. For seated lateral raise, face the bench and lean your chest into it for support. And if every bench in the gym is taken, just stay down and place a soft foam roller against your chest. Hold it in place with your legs, and it works surprisingly well as a stabilizer. The second key, despite being called lateral raises, your arms shouldn't actually be lifting straight out to the sides because of the way your shoulder blades are built. Raising your arms that way almost guarantee your upper traps will take over. Seen from the side, your shoulder actually has a roof-like structure on top. It's called the acromion, and it sits right over your upper arm. When your arm lifts to around 30 degrees, there's still plenty of space between that roof and the bone underneath. But once you go past 30 degrees, the greater tubercle of your humerus starts closing in on the acromion. By the time you hit 60 degrees, they're nearly colliding. To avoid that, your body automatically rotates the scapula and lifts the acromion to create more space for the humerus to move. But once that happens, every muscle connected to the acromion gets pulled into help, including the upper traps. As soon as they kick in, they overpower the movement. So what's really left for your lateral delts to do? You might be thinking, well, can't I just keep my traps from taking over by consciously pulling my shoulders down? It sounds good in theory, but let's test it. Try depressing your shoulders right now, like you are reaching toward the floor with them. Notice how your arm gets stuck pretty early in the movement when your arms are positioned directly out to your sides and you are not allowing your cranium to rise. Your humerus just can't go much higher. That limits your lateral raise range to around 60 degrees. It's like doing a squat but only going 2/3 of the way down. Would you call that a full rep? That's why the typical straight out to the side form just doesn't work. Your arms have to move slightly forward. How far forward your arm should go depends on your shoulder structure. On your humerus, there's a booning point called the greater tubercle. It usually sits toward the back and the cranium where space is limited. But when you move your arm slightly forward, that bone shifts under the highest part of the cranium. That spot gives you more space. More space means less chance of impingement, less movement from a cranium, and less trap involvement. That's why we don't raise straight out to the side. A forward angle of about 30 to 45 degrees is a sweet spot. That's the ideal path for lateral raises. The third key point is tempo. If you are still using the classic fast up, slow down tempo in your lateral raises, you are definitely not getting the best out of your side delts. The faster the movement, the less the side delts have to work. And by fast, I don't mean you are swinging the weight. I mean even under control, your tempo is still quick. You might think, it's just a second or two. How much of a difference could it really make? Well, the math says a lot. During the lifting phase, no matter how controlled you are giving the dumbbell acceleration. It goes from 0 speed to some speed. Basic physics tells us that momentum equals the weight of the object multiplied by its speed. So, once the dumbbell got speed, it ends up with momentum. Basically, it now wants to keep going upward, even if you stop applying force. How hard the dumbbell keeps moving depends on how much kinetic energy it builds up. The formula for kinetic energy tells us the faster you move, the more energy you generate. Now, let's compare fast versus slow. A fast rep takes 0.6 seconds. A slow one takes 1.94 seconds. Since speed equals distance divided by time, the fast rep is 3 times faster than slow one. And because kinetic energy is based on speed squared, that means the dumbbell generates 8 times more kinetic energy during the fast rep. And the heavier the dumbbell, the bigger that difference becomes. The momentum your dumbbell builds, it's basically like having a spotter helping you lift. The more help you get, the less your side delts actually need to work. That's why I strongly advise against using a faster tempo during the lifting phase. This same effect is also explained by the muscle-to-force velocity curve. The faster a muscle contracts, the less tension it can produce. That's because the structure inside the muscle that generates force, actin and myosin, need time to connect. You can think of them like two hands trying to shake. If you move too fast, the fingertips just brush past each other and miss the grip. But if you slow down, the hands can fully clasp together. And it's only when that full connection happens that your muscle can generate the maximum tension. That's why the speed of the lateral raise needs to stay slow, so your muscles have time to build proper tension. I know you're probably not using 5 or 10 pounds for your lateral raises anymore. Those weights feel way too light, right? Like you are not even working. But try slowing your tempo down. I used to need 30-pound dumbbells, 4 sets of 10 reps just to feel like my side delts were doing anything. Now, I can hit failure in 10 reps with just 10 pounds, and the contraction in the side delts feels way more focused and complete. There's nothing shameful about grabbing the light dumbbells at the gym. The person standing quietly in the corner, lifting 5 pounds and controlling every second of the movement, that's someone who actually takes training seriously. And people like that, they're the ones who become truly strong. The fourth key point is the wrist angle. You can keep your wrists level or tilt them slightly inward, like you are pouring water from a jug. Now, this pouring motion isn't inherently bad. It really depends on when and how you use it. That inward tilt can actually help rotate the real fibers of a lateral delt forward, bring them more in line with the direction your arms moving. That increases the mind-muscle connection and can make the contraction feel much stronger. But here's the problem. If you do the pouring motion when your arms are directly out to your sides, it reduces the space under cramming and increases the risk of shoulder impingement. In that case, the risk outweighs the benefit, and I wouldn't recommend it. However, when your arms are angled slightly forward, like we talked about earlier, that subacromial space opens up. In that position, a slightly inward tilt of the wrists can actually be helpful. Still, it all comes down to your individual shoulder structure. Use it only if your body allows it. The final key point is your grip position. Gripping closer to the outer end helps keep tension on your side delts more stable and consistent. When the dumbbell tilts slightly inward, it activates external rotators of your shoulder, especially the infraspinatus and teres minor. These muscles increases shoulder joint stability, and when your scapula and humerus are locked in, other muscles are less likely to compensate. That allows your lateral delts to contract naturally and do all the work, which maximizes the quality of stimulus. Just like when you tighten your lats during a bench press, it gives your chest a better platform to contract from. Same principle. Stabilize the system, and the target muscle can fire more effectively. And the last reminder, as the weight gets heavier, your forearm might start to fatigue before your shoulders do. In that case, it's fine to shift your grip to the center of the handle temporarily, but I highly recommend including some dedicated forearm training in your routine. Forearm endurance is very important to your shoulder training, just like it is for back training. If your forearm skips out early, you won't be able to train either one properly. And that wraps up our deep dive in the lateral raises. If you get this movement right, your side delts will grow, no question about it. If you found this video helpful, feel free to give it a like. It really helps to support the channel and keeps me motivated to make better content for you. And if you don't want to miss the next video, make sure to subscribe. This is Kid. See you in the next one.